We are here to document my attempt to predict the entire story of Knights of Guinevere, having seen only one episode. If you don't know what Knights of Guinevere is, long story short, the creators of the Owl House were mad at Disney for canceling the show early, so now they're making a show about an evil corporation with endless parallels to Disney.
There was a princess, trapped in a tall, tall tower, and locked away by complicated machines that ran on blood and fear.
At first it looks like the narrator is talking about Olivia being the princess, but it becomes clear near the end of this flashback that she's actually talking about Guinevere being the princess, which means the narrator is siding with Guinevere, and that's very important for reasons I'll discuss in just a second.
It was beautiful. A world of possibility, where fantasies became reality, where tall tales became indisputable truths.
I think that's a very important bit of information, because think about it, the narrator is siding with Guinevere and doesn't condone the actions of Olivia, and yet the narrator vouches for Park Planet being a wonderful place, despite the fact that later on the park has a very negative reputation. That leads me to theorize that the park actually was more of a wonderful place in the beginning, but it's gotten twisted and morphed into something horrible. I think that's a big thing in the themes of Knights of Guinevere, is there's this distinction between the old ways and the new ways. Obviously, Park Planet is based off of Disneyland. You could definitely argue that there's been some downgrades in recent years in Disneyland, and also overpricing. More on that later.
Olivia, your future can be as bright and beautiful as all this.
Thank you for the present, Papa. Come, princess.
I think that Orville isn't supposed to be as crazy and evil as Olivia. You can sort of see he looks a little bit upset, like he doesn't like his daughter's treatment of this possibly sentient robot. I have a kind of far out there theory that might be either helped or hindered by this image here. A magical family vacation took a dark turn when a brother attempted a quote-unquote prank at Planet Park. Unless I'm missing something, these two are the only customers of the park, or visitors of the park, that we actually see, unless he counts Frankie and Andy in the flashback. There's even this shot of a parade inside the park where you can't see any of the visitors. And it's not like it's too hard for them to animate people, but the humans we're seeing here aren't very happy. So there's this very bad reputation that the park has along with the company, and yet we're led to believe that the park is so successful. I have two theories about how the park could simultaneously be so popular and yet so hated by humanity. The first theory is that it's just a class divide. So it's popular among the rich, but the poor people are the ones we're actually seeing most of the time. And my second theory, and this is a admittedly very far out there theory, but the fact that it's a long shot would make it so satisfying if it ended up being true. It's possible that the visitors in the park are actually a different species, which would explain why Guinevere has gray skin. Maybe she actually looks like the alien species that's visiting the park. It's not too much of a stretch to imply aliens might be in this show in some capacity, because we know from later on that this might not actually be Earth. There's multiple planets brought up. Well, it's brought up that there are multiple planets at least. So I'm thinking maybe humanity could have turned into this sort of second class on this planet, and the aliens are the only ones that go to the park now. Because what I'm thinking is, the park might have been a wonderful place where everybody was welcome at first, but then the new regime at some point said, no, we only let these people in. When I said my alien theory could be helped or hindered by this image, what I meant was we're seeing humans at the park, which could mean that humans are allowed to visit the park, but it could also mean that this was taken a long time ago, and incidents like this are part of the reason why humans are no longer allowed to visit the park. It's probably more likely that it's just the upper class and not aliens that are allowed to visit the park through insanely priced tickets. Another possible explanation for Guinevere having gray skin could just be they want to sell costumes to little girls of any race, so they didn't want Guinevere to look like any particular real race. But if it does turn out to be aliens, you heard it here first. This show is worth supporting just based off of this freeze frame alone. Live action remake greenlit. No one asked for it, so we're making it. My theory is that the main Guinevere is actually the original Guinevere, who was a hero of the people way back when, and her image has been used as the face of this company that's gone so terrible. There's so many examples of Guinevere's images being defaced, which reminds me of a lot of people's thumbnails of Mickey Mouse in evil or distressed contexts when the video is about Disney doing something stupid or losing money. I think the idea is Disney used to make some really great stuff, but the legacy of that stuff has been tarnished so much in recent years. At first I was confused when Livia said that she wants to fix Guinevere, especially since after all these years she's still busted up. But now I think it makes perfect sense because I think what Olivia really wants to do is make Guinevere complacent with what Livia's doing. Like how Disney thought they needed to fix Snow White with a modern remake. So that's why Guinevere is still trashed after all these years of Olivia trying to fix her. Fun fact, a lot of these plushes are actually characters from other Glitch series.
Well, hello, little ones. I'm Princess Guinevere.
I'm 99.99% sure that this Guinevere is the same one that we saw in the opening flashback. And I am 99.9999999% sure this is the same Guinevere that they find later on. But you might be wondering, how could that be if this one so obviously does not look like the Guinevere we saw earlier? But near the end of the episode, Frankie hallucinates Guinevere looking like this, so it's possible in this flashback they were also hallucinating her looking this perfect when she was torn up then too. This has got to be happening during one of her escape attempts, which implies she's had a lot of escape attempts over the years, because this can't possibly be the same escape attempt as the one from the opening, because the ages of Frankie, Andy, and Olivia don't match up for that. Also, while we're here, this image of Guinevere is how she's supposed to look. This is supposed to be her true form, if you will, and she does not have a crown in this particular instance. We'll talk more about that later. Yeah, I'm so sure that this is the same Guinevere as the one we see later, because the scrapped Guinevere later has that exact same finger completely removed. Like it was never completely fixed, or that piece is more fragile than the rest.
Read the sign.
What? Crowny?
The fact that they specifically call people who worked for the company crownies is a detail that jumps out to me because, like I said, Guinevere did not wear a crown in that flashback. In fact, every time we see a Guinevere robot, they're not wearing a crown, but there are depictions of Guinevere wearing a crown. Like there's a statue of Guinevere that has a crown. The plushies of Guinevere have crowns. In fact, they made a video about the plushies that they made for this show, and that video has someone dressed up as Guinevere, not wearing a crown, holding a plushie of Guinevere that has a crown. I think that's too consistently done to be nothing. I think that sort of represent a dissonance between the reputation and the reality, especially since they call people crownies, a name that's tied to a negative reputation. So perhaps Guinevere is not supposed to be a monarch, but she's sort of seen as the one who's ruling or causing these problems.
Your attention's divided, man! Meanwhile, every new planet is getting terraformed and
So that's proof that there's multiple planets and perhaps multiple species.
then maybe I can get a job in the labs too, and we can work together. I just like thinking about that sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that these two collectively are the allegory for Dana Terrace herself. I think Frankie is based off of Dana Terrace before she worked at Disney, and Andy is based off of Dana Terrace after she worked at Disney. Frankie wants the job that Andy has. Meanwhile, Andy, who has that job, knows it's not as fun as it sounds. Perhaps Dana Terrace has had people come up to her and say that they want to do exactly what she's doing, and perhaps she had some sort of 1,000-yard stare afterwards. We know that a lot of the people are getting slowly poisoned by this blue stuff that the park uses. It's possible that they didn't use that stuff at first, but they've started using it since then. Maybe.
A Guinevere android. I don't recognize the model.
Note that she doesn't recognize the model, because this is the original Guinevere, not one of the recreations she's used to seeing. We don't see their faces either. Perhaps they have gray skin too, like the park attendants. And also, we don't see the skin of these caretakers. They could have gray skin, perhaps, maybe. Admittedly, yes, there are humans here working for the park, but it could be like those old-timey hotels where the black people were allowed to perform but not allowed to attend as guests. We didn't see her manager. Her manager could be an alien. I did think about the fact that it would be weird if the plot twist was revealed to the audience, but it's something that the characters already know. But then I thought, well, it's possible that they know that there are aliens at the park, but what they don't know is that all of the guests at the park are now aliens. Because it could be that Park Planet just has insanely high prices for their tickets, and they try to make it sound like humans can theoretically become patrons at the park. But the reality is they've set things up in a way where humans don't have the opportunities to get jobs that would get them that much money. So what I'm thinking is Frankie and Andy will realize that at some point when they get to the park and find that all the customers are all aliens. It's slightly possible that they came up with this idea before the Star Wars hotel shut down. Now affordable for the whole family, packages starting at I'm going to faint million. I get that this is set in the future, so they have super inflation to consider, but still.
You're polishing the wrong scepter, Crowny.
Sorry. Hope you feel better. But also, fuck you!
She doesn't like what he did, and yet she doesn't wish death upon him. We could use a lot more of that mentality these days.
Doesn't matter what model she is. You need to go back for her.
Oh, what do we have here?
Hey, you eat yet? Today sucked.
Admittedly, when I first watched the episode, I thought, why did Andy turn the lights off when she came in? But that's obviously not what's happening. What's happening is we just switched from Frankie's perception to Andy's perception. So really the TV has been staticking this whole time and the lights have been off this whole time. That's all part of Frankie's alternative perception. I say alternative perception and not hallucinations because we keep seeing stuff that validates what Frankie is seeing and hearing. Later on, she hallucinates Guinevere saying she'll take care of business, and then she actually does take care of business. So I think Frankie just has this ability to see and hear what machines are trying to show her, or she can see what they're supposed to be. She's watching a transmission on a broken TV. Perhaps the lights are broken too, but she can still see as if there's light coming from those lights. And she sees Guinevere as if she's not in shambles later on. I think that ties into what I was saying about Frankie being like Dana Terrace before she worked at Disney, and Andy being like Dana Terrace after she worked at Disney. In the opening, both Frankie and Andy seem to be seeing the same version of Guinevere, but now Andy doesn't see whatever Frankie is seeing in her not hallucinations. It's possible that when Guinevere met Andy and Frankie the first time, she gave them that power as part of dubbing them her knights, maybe. I think what's going on is after getting her job at Park Planet, Andy has become so jaded. But also on the flip side, Frankie is seeing hope where there is none. Like, she thinks that the job at Park Planet would be so fun, but Andy knows it's not. So you kind of wonder which of one of them is more wrong than the other. Guinevere has a broken crown. What does it mean? So here's my predictions for the rest of the season. And again, a lot of this is long shots, but that just means I'll have a ton of bragging points if this turns out to be accurate. So I'm thinking what happened was Olivia grew to hate humans for some reason involving her past somehow, even though she herself is a human. So she's been turning Park Planet into a pollution machine that's slowly killing off the human population. Also, the tickets off-world are extremely expensive, so none of the humans can leave the increasingly polluted planets. And Olivia wanted Guinevere to help with that vision of destroy all humans.
I can make you better.
But the original Guinevere is actually nice, so she kept trying to escape. So after Frankie and Andy fix her up, Guinevere is going to tell them that Olivia must be stopped. However, they're going to have a ton of difficulty getting any help from any of the humans, because they've all been conditioned to hate Guinevere. So now the humans are both feeding the machine of their own destruction through the park, and they're trying to stop the only people who want to help them. Guinevere might eventually earn the trust of the people and start a rebellion against Park Planet. Also, while we're talking about directions the story's gonna go, Andy and Frankie seemed like very good friends. And I'm actually not being sarcastic, I think they actually are just good friends. This show is created by the same people who made The Owl House, which had Luce end up with Amity, so it's assumable that they do another girl-on-girl relationship with Frankie and Andy. However, Frankie and Andy have known each other so long at this point, and they still don't seem to be girlfriends. How useless do they have to be to not have something happen by now? I'm thinking either one of them is straight, or they just aren't compatible in that area for some reason. And going back to the comparison with The Owl House, if the way things went with Amity is a indication of where things are going in Knights of Guinevere, consider this. Amity was not in the first episode of The Owl House, and Luce made friends with Willow before she made friends with Amity, yet Luce did not end up with Willow. So it's possible that they might introduce a love interest after the first episode and then have things gradually progress from one state to another. As of recording this video, Knights of Guinevere actually hasn't been greenlit for a full season yet, so if you would watch the pilot multiple times, I would consider that helpful. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and give me bragging rights if I turn out to be correct.